The characters now have public speaking skills, something I will never have. They can speak to each other, sing to each other, even give a fucking TED talk if you need them to. Oh hey, this is Spud. Who the heck is Spud? And why on earth a potato wearing a cowboy hat? Well, excellent question, gentlemen. Let me explain. A few months ago, I started developing my first indie game using Unity. Now, getting into game development has always been something I wanted to do, but I did not have a proper understanding of how to start things off. Between my full-time job, personal commitments, and of course not knowing anything about how to develop games, this idea constantly got put back. Back in mid-January, kinda like a New Year resolution so to speak, I finally thought it was time to kick things off and decided to do a bit of research on game development and game engines. I mainly looked into Unity, Unreal Engine and Godot, and after a couple of weeks of research, I decided to go with Unity as a beginner. Now, how I made that decision is probably a topic for a different video, but I just wanted to say that they are all great engines. Now, a little bit about the project itself. My dream project was to develop an open-world action RPG with multiplayer photorealistic 3D graphics. Nah, we are not doing all that. I mean, kudos to all game devs who have big aspirations and have made it. And I wholeheartedly wish them nothing but the best with their projects, but we are not doing that. Not as of yet. Actually, someday I do want to build something really cool, 3D, open world with some exploration aspect to it. But a project like that would take years to make, even for a seasoned development studio, so we are not there yet. Instead, I went with a much simpler version, a very simple 2D RPG. Aside from basic game mechanics such as animation, design, combat, controls and UI, a game like that would give me the opportunity to learn to program other systems such as character development, quest, dialogue systems, inventory, items, events, and etc. Since I'm not an artist, not a good one anyway, I decided to go with crude, simple art style like South Park, Stick of Truth, which I thought I could sufficiently manage. More importantly, people often tend to forgive that type of art. I mean, if your content is decent enough anyway. Plus at that time, I played a game called Oh My God Look at This Night, which I found pretty fun and cute, and that inspired me to go in that route too. So here comes the Devlog number 1. What I did in my first 2 to 3 months. A little disclaimer though, I do not have any previous experience or a degree in game development, which essentially makes me an absolute novice in the industry. However, because of my previous full-time job as an automation engineer, I do have a bit of a programming experience, mainly in Java. And I have also used C# a tiny bit to build silly tools during my college, although that's not even close to being a programming expert, let alone a game developer. As for the theme of the game, I decided to go with a cowboy theme because I'm a big Western fan. Plus I try to travel whenever I can, and the Midwest has always been one of my favorite places to visit. You will know it by visiting some parts of the world in a game where I have added areas like Arches, Monument Valley, and Half Dome as little Easter eggs. Although technically Yosemite is not in the Midwest, but you know what I mean. First, I created a new project in Unity, but did not know the name of the game yet, namely The Cowboy, very original I know, and started to get to work. I wanted to go with a silly, goofy story with quest filled with satire so that I could focus more on learning the gameplay mechanics while making the game still fun to play. The story goes like this. It's about a potato, let's call him Spud for now, who's from the potato capital of America, Idaho. The special potato falls off a truck on the way to Texas, somewhere around I-15 in Utah, along with his potato friends. Now as I said, this potato is quite special. Instead of just giving up dying on the side of the highway just like his buddies, Spud decides to take a journey into Western world to become the best cowboy he can ever be. I started with baby steps, and that's with the drawing of the player. I know I said I didn't bother too much about the graphics, but my god, that's one up potato. I sent this to my family for some feedback. My older sister said that was lame. My younger sister started having nightmares, and even my 6-month-old nephew started speaking and said, I must have a small PP. That was pretty helpful because, I have my insecurities. Anywho, I myself was not very happy with the drawing anyway, so I put some more time and came up with a much better version of him. To people who cannot draw, I highly encourage you guys to watch the drawing tutorials of Thomas Brush and Blackthorn Prod. I mean, these guys are absolutely awesome. Not only their drawing tutorials, their game dev tutorials in general are pretty damn good. If that also doesn't work for you, you can always yoink some royalty-free vector graphics or an asset pack off our website. Trust me, there are tons of free good ones out there. In my case, I wanted to get the whole game development experience, including the graphics, so I might as well draw some of it. So the play is ready, and time for some player movements. I watched a few practice tutorials on player movements and quickly cranked up some code and bam, got the player moving. I know this is very simple stuff, but seeing the character responded to the user controls and moving here and there was super cool to see. Same with shooting. Went through a few tutorials and mashed up some code and went through a few tutorials and mashed up some code and guns go pew pew now. I left all the big brain combat elements such as enemies, weapon swapping, clip size, damage, reload, etc. for later. Then with my amazing drawing skills, I got the first level done. I mean, pretty sure my baby sister in 2nd grade can draw better than this, but it is what it is. This is where the player would start off. I added some roads, learned about the objects and colliders and prevented the player from moving into certain areas. Then I animated the player too and gave him idle and run animations. Seeing the character come to life was very fun to see and definitely made working on the project much more exciting. Also learned about the sprite, sorting layers, animations and triggers, and added a couple of street signs, trees and mushrooms and made them respond to whenever the player collided with them as they were disturbed by the player. Pretty fun stuff. Then I added a few areas to the map which the player can explore before moving into the Cowboy town. Currently there's a secret quest in one of these areas and I definitely do plan to add some more. Although my drawing technique has slightly improved over the months, I still want to leave these older levels as is just to remind myself how shitty my drawing actually was. As I was getting more and more comfortable with Unity, I wanted to dive into more big brain stuff. So I started with an inventory system. Going back to Brackeys and Blackthorn Prod, they had inventory management system videos available which was super useful. I basically combined most of the elements from both and compiled my own inventory system. For a game like this, you don't need a large inventory with dozens of slots, so I gave it only 4. This will also give the player to manage the inventory space and only keep what's needed. At first, the player was picking up items as he walked into them and would stop picking up if all the inventory slots were full. The player could also drop picked items from the respective inventory slots as well. However, I did not like this on collision pickup because I only had 4 slots and I didn't want the player to be picking up all that junk automatically. So like before, I mashed some code and created a pickup system. Bam! Now the player can pick up items only if he wants to. I saw the potential of the system and wanted to extend the same functionality to other user actions such as equip and interact. This also made me briefly work with the canvas because I had to display the pickup button on screen, so I was learning things about the UI a bit as well. Still, my areas are pretty much empty and boring as f. So I added a few trees and objects to the levels and learned a bit about the particle systems as well and added a little spice to them. I still plan to pimp up these levels a little bit more when I learn about shaders. Next up, quest. The usual workflow of a load and savior Brackeys had quest system tutorials available, so I followed along. It kinda sucks actually, he stopped making more videos. Still, go ahead and give him some love, and I will link his channel in the description. There are two things you can do when it comes to these tutorials. You could exactly follow the steps, or you could try to get some sense of the implementation and customize it according to your needs, which is what I did. For example, my quests were not always kill or collect quests. I knew some of them would be pretty weird, so I had to customize the system in a way that to track these actions and objectives. Then I added my first quest. It was about having a banjo contest with our first NPC, Banjo Fate. The trick is to press the correct keys which are displayed on the screen. For this, I had to learn how to do QTE or quick time events. That one was a kind of a pain in the ass because I have multiple types of QTEs such as key press, which only acknowledges single keystroke, and a key mash, which accepts the mashing of the same button multiple times within a given period until the condition is true. The key mash was a bit tricky because instead of filling up the progress bar equally, I wanted to make the end more difficult to fill up so that the player basically has to mash the key rapidly. I had to develop the system from the ground up, which took quite a bit of a brain juice over the next couple of days. It was mid-March and the parts of the games were coming together. To improve the gameplay, I wanted to have dialogues between the player and the NPCs. The YouTube is a wonderful place to learn game dev. I mean, pretty much every other thing as well. As usual, did some code mashing and bam! The characters now have public speaking skills, something I will never have. They can speak to each other, sing to each other, even give a fucking TED talk if you need them to. The implementation is done in a way that the relevant NPCs would hold all the dialogue components with them, and this could be also triggered by the quest system. Each dialogue line would have other properties such as is repeating, is read, and events. The repeating is very useful when the NPC is waiting for a specific event or has run out of things to say. Is read is pretty much self-explanatory, and events are used if there are actions to be done once a specific dialogue line is over. By the way, I do have an idea to voice over these lines, so if you happen to have or can fake an American Southern accent, please let me know in the comments or via Twitter so that maybe we can get that going as well. So, that was kind of it for the first 2 to 3 months update on my game. These updates are actually the older ones which are kinda done in the retrospect. Since now it's June, I have completed much more than what's shown in here. I will bring the second devlog in a couple of weeks, which covers the April and May update and perhaps the June one too. Meantime, please like the video if you like it and don't forget to subscribe because